So going back to what member Vice Chair Kama opened with about contractors that will be certified or able to do the work that is required for this, because it sounds like it's highly specialized. Will there be classes for the contractor to become certified, or is there some kind of criteria or standard that must be followed?
Thanks for the question. As we discussed, there's going to be a number of different contractors required. So the certification is usually through the state. So I would recommend that if contractors are interested, they reach out to their state certification agency, whether that's an arborist or a tree removal service or a certified asbestos consultant. They may have classes that are available, typically online. For general construction, to go into what we're calling the hot zone in the ash area, at a minimum, they have to have HAZWOPER certification. EPA was offering that free of charge. I don't know how many slots they still have available, but that might be a resource to send the link for. At this time, I guess you could reach out to EPA and find out how many slots they have left.
Okay. So in other words, if there's a contractor that's interested, they can contact EPA.
At this time, yes, correct.
Okay. Because I think that's important. The requirements are pretty stringent, and it would be detrimental to our community if they randomly do things and are not properly certified. And I wanted to ask Director Molina, if you would, talk about the work that you're doing to be sure that the structures are safe, or what is your team doing now?
Thank you, Chair. So the current program is safety assessments, whereby our DSA building permit department, as well as support from the state of California, has been performing safety assessments to determine whether the buildings are safe to occupy. And so the determination is really just your minimum safety assessment on whether these structures, the ones that are more or less still partially standing, are safe for the occupants to be in those buildings. That's kind of the rough extent of it. From there, we're going to have to do a further assessment for those standing structures to determine the extent to which demolition may be required to abate the hazards of those structures. Thank you.
Thank you. And so you communication with the property owners about this?
That's correct. I mean, Public Works is going to be involved throughout the duration of the cleanup.
Oh, very good. And one of the comments, from our first testifier was that she appreciated your presentation that you all put together. And I wonder if there's a way that we could, I don't know if you want to work on it, but if we could have it, play on Akaku or get it publicized so that people, or put it on MAUI recoveries.org on that website so people can watch it. But I would like a bigger reach also. Would that be possible, Aaron?
Yes, and we're also planning to do a little video series. So if you just want to know about one phase or understand the different components, we'll be posting that on MAUI Recovers as well.
Okay, and then one of the statements was that if you opted in for the government process and then you decide to change that you want it out of it and do on your own, so what happens with the cost? I think we got to think about that, because to do it on your own is a completely different cost. But to do it through the government process, you take from your insurance policy first, and then the government would cover the difference. So how would that be handled?
I can start on that answer because we do have some experience with that, and then Corey is definitely going to jump in. So, it is correct that the right of entry permit as a voluntary agreement allows you to terminate it at any time. The challenge is you kind of have to opt out and into something, right, which is usually, by definition, the alternate program. And there's a couple cost considerations. One is that if costs have been incurred on your property to date, that insurance recovery provision is still applicable. So if you opt out after some work is done, the federal government has an obligation to prevent the duplication even for that work. The second would be that, you're opting out into the alternate program, the full cost of that ahead as discussed. And at least in our experience in California, if you leave the government program, it's not always possible to get back in afterwards, right? And we have had that issue where folks opt out, they then get a bid from a contractor, it's more than they can afford, and they try and get back into the public program, but the public program has already moved along. So we would really encourage folks, before they make that determination, to think long and hard. And our jurisdictions in California are pretty forward with their constituents if they're making that decision before they, let them submit that withdrawal form, to really sit down with them and say, is this the best decision for you? And I would really encourage the county staff to do the same.
And I would direct anyone who's curious about the actual terms of that to go to the ROE form, which is available on MAUIrecovers.org. And under Section D, Other Terms, number 10, Modification, it gives permission for, or it allows the ROE to be terminated by submitting an executed withdrawal form to the county. And then it also does say that the government may seek reimbursement for expenses incurred up to the point of withdrawal, including insurance claims.
Okay, very good. Okay, so that was the end of my 5 minutes. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. So it is, 10 minutes, sorry. 10:52, we'll come back.